Yeah, Attack on Titan. That's just a show that wigs me out because of just the look of the Titans and it really loves its gore porn. Just like people being chewed on slowly. But it's what would I pair with Attack on Titan?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside, the quarantine editions of the episode. Joining us this week, we have Robin LeBlanc, who is a author, blogger, award-winning writer, and the other better half of the Ontario Craft Beer podcast, joining us today. Thank you very much for taking time in your schedule to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Like I like to do as many episodes as we can, we're going to share a virtual beer. Let my audience know what you're drinking.
Yeah, sure. So I actually got a hold of some Amsterdam Pantomime Golden Ale. Ooh. So pretty happy with it. Brewed in collaboration with Charles Farham to highlight a new hop variety. This Golden Ale balances the biscuity malt notes of British Ground Maris Otter with layered tropical fruit and peach aromas that come from using 100% Harlequin hops.
Oh, nice. As mentioned pre-show, this is one of my last Ontario beers because COVID's really bad across Canada, so we have to shut down our borders between provinces. I'm having the from Old Tomorrow. I believe they're a contract brewer out of Toronto. It is the Double Up Coffee Milk Stout. It's great. Oh, Canada, quintessential flavor of the classic Canadian brew. Creamy body, amazing aroma with dark roasted coffee notes, and just the right amount of sweetness.
Who doesn't love a double-double?
Yeah, there we go. That's true. And we do a virtual toast. A toast. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, that is tasty. That's a tasty beer. I'm a big fan of Old Tomorrow. I like their Monty's aged ride.
Oh yeah,
very, very tasty caramel style, like red ale.
So, nice. Yeah, fantastic. I think like Amsterdam was one of the early breweries for me that I really, really liked. I remember being completely hooked on their framboise back in the day. And when they brought Tempest down, I remember like specifically just like running from my office to the old brewery back when it was on College to get some.
I will say though, I was in Toronto last September, and their waterfront property is gorgeous. So.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
That's definitely a place to check out. We'll talk about places to check out in Toronto later on. But I've personally read your intro. But for those who don't know, what's the beer story for Robin LeBlanc, also known as the Thirsty Wench?
Yeah, I guess it's a story that dates back to around technically 2007. And my cat Leopold is going to be.
Yes.
Anyone
as mentioned in your blog.
Yeah, and also the in the podcast he likes speaking up a lot. But it goes back to around 2007. I was at a friend's house. Their roommate brought by a bottle of Chimay Premier, so Chimay Red Cap. And until then, like, I'd had beer. I mean, I went to Amsterdam, went to the Heineken brewery. But I think about the most sophisticated thing I had back then was Rickard's Red. I was more into wine. But the roommate came by, had this beer, and just talked about, what the Trappist monks were, and how the big social thing too was just like, the money that they get goes towards maintaining the abbey, continuing production, and anything else they just sort of give to charity, kind of the deal. And really impressed by that. And then I had a sip, and it was just so complex. It was the most complex drink I had ever had, and it was just beautiful flavor swirling around. And that just sort of kicked things off. That went into yes, Leopold. That went into going to Barvolo as a group, and we were all very poor bohemian types at the time. So we would each throw in a bunch of money just for like one bottle. Like one of us would buy one bottle and share it between like all five of us. Mm-hmm. And that just led to trying more beer. And then that led to reading up about the process. And then that led to wanting to homebrew. And then that led to just always learning more. And then I just needed to write down what I was thinking. And I'm sorry about him.
It's okay.
He's been ridiculously silent this whole time, but up until now. But yeah, and then that just led to needing to write it all down, because I was getting to a point where I was like really enjoying it. I was talking about it with a lot of people, and then they were asking me a lot of questions, and sometimes the questions would be a bit repetitive. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? I want to write down my notes anyways, so let's just make it a blog, And yeah, then the blog started, and then I put my head down, and then put it back up, and then suddenly I had a career. So
That's fantastic here. Yeah, I find a lot of people who really get into it, like this show. It's a creative outlet for me,
yeah,
and that's where the beer comes in. It's I think I say it best is I have like a consumer palate. I have the very typical. I'm not advanced. I'm not a beer judge in any way. I know what I like. So that's where my inspiration comes from. I'm not, well, I do enjoy, let's say, a Michelob Ultra if I'm out playing softball with the guys or something. I regularly, if I'm sitting at home, I require something with flavor. So that's where for myself, it's craft beer or fancy scotches, whiskeys, things like that. So
yeah. I mean, and to be honest, I mean, I like what I like, and also like I a lot of the times too, I like the fairly unsnobby things. I actually appreciate Miller Lite. It's a good beer. It's been in existence for as long as it has for a reason. But it's not as Feltly, for instance, from Godspeed, but it's still really good. And yeah, like good Scotch, all that's like just knowing what you like is an important thing, I find.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Now the thirsty wench. Well, why'd you come up with that? Why not? Robin drinks or Robin drinks craft or the thirsty wench is very unique from what I'm seeing.
So the beer blog wasn't my first sort of venture into blogging. I had sort of been part of the blog space for quite a long time with that, and I had a very short-lived foodie blog called The Hungry Bitch. And I think, well, the initial plan was that I start this beer blog and just make it a secondary thing as part of that. So I was going to call it originally The Thirsty Bitch. But then I kept thinking about it and realized, like, no, that's not accessible to a lot of people. And, frankly, it's, I don't know. I just...
It sounds a little mildly X-rated when you think about it.
A little, yeah. There's that too. Thirsty wench is hard too, but yeah. So I just decided, like, okay, maybe that's a bit too crude, and decided to just switch bitch to wench, and that was pretty much it. So, visuals for me always came back to, like, I don't know, just like the tavern ladies, stuff like that, and just having a drink.
That's awesome. And like I said, it's super original name. I've never seen anything like that before. I do see a lot of like the beer bitch, the blah 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 bitch, blogging beer bitch and things like that. So it seems it's a good deviation. I find it doesn't feel as aggressive. So
yeah, and I guess unbeknownst to me as well, when I started that blog, there already was a beer wench, and I got confused with her a couple of times. Ashley Rouston, she's out of California. But we had an epic battle, and I won. Or really, realistically, she left the industry, and I remained standing. So,
excellent. And I mean, as we mentioned as well, pre-show, you are in the intro as well, as I say, the better half of the Ontario Craft Beer podcast. And the Ontario Craft Beer Guide available. I saw it at Indigo here. I'm assuming Amazon and a few other purchasing ventures. So.
Yeah, it's wherever good books and probably some bad books are sold.
So yeah, it's the second edition. Do you see yourself and Jordan getting back together since craft beer is expanding so much in Ontario right now? Do you think a third edition is on the way in the next couple of years? Or
absolutely not? No, I don't. I think we were. I guess the important thing to know about this book, or like the book for the both two editions that Jordan and I did, that is that we were really insane in doing it. because I think like especially the first one, we had about, I want to say 5 months to complete it, and it was important for us to, travel to as many of these breweries as possible. We don't have driver's licenses, so it was there was a lot of figuring things out, and so we did it on the first one. Then the second one, there was just more of it, and we at least had a better path. We had just sort of like, we had figured out how to done it. We didn't have to blaze any trails on that one, or trailblaze on that one, I should say. But we still had to do it in like, I want to say 8 months or something like that. And again, no driver's license, so we busted. We airplaned it. We did whatever we could, and it was a massive undertaking. And I'm really, really grateful for the opportunities that we had to do that. That said, with all the breweries that are out right now, I don't think Jordan and I can just do it ourselves like that again. But who knows? I mean, I'm sure there might be even like an online version somewhere down the pipeline. I know Jordan has sort of put together his comprehensive list on his site of the breweries that are opened up. We try to do what we can with the podcast in the meantime.
Yeah, that's great. And I mentioned the podcast. You just hit 100. A lot of people barely make it past 6 to 10. Like that's, and just the camaraderie between the two of you, just the cold open humor is such like, that's my type of humor I love to hear when I'm like sitting down, typing away at work and listening for the evening's beers and the beer news I'd like to hear out of the province of Ontario. I'm in Montreal, so it's a hop, skip, and a jump right to the Ontario border. It's great. The fact that you mentioned you didn't have a driver's license and doing all that completely blows my mind, because when I think of like Lake of the Woods, which is just on the Manitoba border, all the way up to, I don't know how far northern Ontario their brewery is, but that blows my mind.
So we couldn't make it out to Lake of the Woods. That's still on the list of ones I want to go to, but we just couldn't make that one work. I think the furthest we got to was Thunder Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even that, my brother-in-law and I drove from Montreal to Calgary, and just going around that Great Lake, it's like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's a fantastic drive. But if you're doing it to move people and not doing it for enjoyment, it's not as fun. So.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of trudging, but it was good. I mean, I wouldn't take any of those experiences back for the world.
When it comes to the podcast, do you feel your audience is kind of naturally growing along with it? Obviously, with the more breweries in Ontario, do you feel that your listener base is getting a little larger? Yeah,
I think it that's sort of the case. So I mean, like when we started this, we didn't necessarily know how it would hold over, and I mean, we were grateful to make it past, I think, like the 6 episode mark, because the 6 episode mark is when the people who say, hey, I'm going to start a podcast, that's about the time they give up. So we were grateful to get past that point. And then, we just keep doing our thing. And just more and more we hear from people, like not just in Ontario, but like from all over the country and like a lot of places in the world too, that enjoy listening to us, to just sort of get that perspective, get that sort of bit of news of what's going on, the commentary, and, a bit of humor as well. So.
I mean, I did enjoy 101 where, every province of Canada has different restrictions where you're like, the park's open. Oh, now it's closed. Oh, the park's open. Oh, now it's closed. It's like, oh my God, this is really actually happening right now when you think about it.
We were literally going through that the past week, and it was just it's frustrating.
Yes.
It's very frustrating. Our government is not doing a great job, personally.
I'm not thankful that the pandemic happened. I am thankful for the technology we have now to be able to speak with you, Jordan, other influencers in the industry across Canada, which I never would have gotten to in the first place. So thank God for technology, because if this was the 90s, oh God, this would suck. So
I definitely hear you there. It would be horrible. Yeah.
Awesome. So I was reading some of your blog, and I came across the Anime and Beer Part 1, or Too Kawaii to Live, Too Sugoi to Die.
Yeah.
And I like your pairings. If there's ever a second part, can I throw some suggestions of animes at you and what beer you may combine that with?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. So I did. I still do watch some anime, but I did have a large phase back in my high school days of it. So my first one of my favorites, Ninja Scroll.
Ninja Scroll.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me look that up because that really sounds familiar.
It's ultra violent, as I would like to put it. And
oh yeah. Okay. I do remember this. I remember seeing a couple of episodes here. Oh wow, that's gory.
Yeah. So what could you see yourself? What beer pairing would go with something as ultra violent and action packed as Ninja Scroll?
Okay. Let me just look up the plot here too. Just after begrudgingly killing his fellow swordsman, he becomes a roving hired assassin. During his travels, he must face off against an organization of demonic ninjas known as the Devils of Kaimon, who are plotting to take power of Japan's government. The Devils will stop at nothing and have the power to annihilate entire villages. Now only Jubei and a shogun spy named Dakun can stop them. Okay. Wow. So demon ninjas.
Yeah.
Demon ninjas and a shogun.
Yeah, and the demon ninjas are everything from a giant guy who's made out of rock to a spider woman who can poison you.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing the giant guy made of rock here. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty dark looking, a lot of use of shadows, a lot of like very edgy stuff here, and quite I'm gonna say quite aggressive.
Yes.
Let's say quite aggressive. So I mean I would expect maybe something then aggressively hopped. Maybe something that's sort of along the lines of I don't know, double IPA or a triple IPA. The one that comes to mind right now is what's it called? Good Monster.
Okay.
I think Good Monster. What is it? It's a New England double IPA. Quite aggressively hopped in my opinion, but also like really got some nice juiciness there as well. Like very, because I'm going to guess one of the big things about this show too is that there's a lot of heart, a lot of like good moments. It's finding light in that darkness kind of deal.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of, as you say, thick, viscous blood shooting everywhere.
Yeah, so I I guess in a show where morality itself is pretty hazy, hazy beer, and I would say that this stuff, which has like its bright moments, featuring with like Mosaic and Citra, but also just sort of like that sort of big bitterness from the Amarillo hops.
Nice.
I think that would, and as well as the big alcoholic punch, I think it's about 8%. So I think that would go nicely with it.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm just gonna ask you one more. I think it's one of the most popular ones, obviously because of Netflix and North American access to it. Attack on Titan.
Oh God, Attack on Titan. That show freaks me out. Because they're just sort of these massive, giant things. Sorry, can you hear the work being done? Or?
It's okay. We understand. Just for the viewers to know, Robin's apartment is being worked on. So.
Yeah, my landlord decided it'd be a great idea to get that done. So sorry about that, folks. But okay. Attack on Titan. That's just a show that wigs me out because of just the look of the Titans, and it really loves its gore porn. Just like people being chewed on slowly. But it's what would I pair with Attack on Titan? I mean, I also want to say another IPA, but
maybe something out of like Third Moon, like Each Beast is a God or something like that.
Actually, you know what? Third Moon would be perfect for that too. Because also like the show is a pretty big acquired taste, and there's especially with Attack on Titan as well, with the fandom, like you either absolutely love it and are really intrigued with the story, or you just can't watch it. So I feel like Third Moon, with particularly the slushy beers, fit that sort of concept, I guess. But which one? Because there's a couple here. All Things Die would probably be would probably be that's I guess one of the things, one of the takeaways I get from Attack on Titan. All Things Die. Or you could go Love Lies Bleeding, which is also pretty in line with the show.
That's awesome. See, I love it's taking two of your loves when you think about it and combining them, which I personally I haven't done a full thing. I've just started Instagram, but I'm doing beers and horror movies.
Oh, amazing.
So I'm trying to pair best. Well, I just grab a beer from my fridge and I'm like, what horror movie could I watch? So the most recent one was the new Wrong Turn. Completely different from the original Wrong Turn. It's not like the inbred hillbilly cannibals anymore.
Yeah.
Something completely different that I don't want to say because I don't like spoiling movies.
Sure.
To the best of my ability. Sometimes they slip. And I can't remember the beer I paired with it, but generally at the end, I'll be like, oh, the movie was good and the beer was this. And I've been thinking of getting more creative outlets. So, a blog about here's the movie, here's my review, here's the beer or beers I had during it, and here's my review of the beers and why they should pair. So
I'd like that. I would definitely read that. And frankly, so here's my thing. I like reading about horror movies, but I can't watch horror movies. There's a very specific reason for that. It's part of my, I guess part of my imagination thing, but like all kids who grew up in like the 80s and 90s, when my parents would take me to the video store, I would go right to the horror section and look at the covers because they were just all these beautifully done covers, but like scary as hell. And then I would read the back of movies, or the back, sort of like the plot of the movies. And my imagination ended up coming up with a scarier movie than what the actual movie was like. I mean, like Nightmare on Elm Street, a serial killer who goes into your dreams. When I was a kid, my dreams were freaking terrifying. Yeah. So I had a very distinct view of what that was like. And I never saw the film until like my late 20s. And then I laughed my ass off. So.
Yeah. Plus, he's also a child murderer, so
it balances out. Yeah,
yeah.
Yes. Exactly. But yeah, I feel pretty good about the burning thing. So yeah,
fantastic. That's awesome to hear. So you mentioned do you still homebrew, or is that a thing of the past?
It's been a long time since I've done it. I do miss it, but it just sort of didn't have the money, didn't have the time, and I had made a couple of good beers that I liked that I sort of want to return to. One of them was, what was it? It was a chamomile, a hoppy brown ale with chamomile that I had slightly taken from Revolution Brewing in Chicago. They did a beer called Working Woman Brown, which is just a brown ale that just has this really nice sort of hop character to it that I really loved. And I just threw in some chamomile in there to give it a sort of a nice sort of creamy little note to it. And it turned out really well. And I think I called it Manor House Secret because I was watching Downton Abbey at the time. And but yeah, I did that. I did like another beer. I made a pumpkin beer actually. And I call it Pumpkin Patch Panic, named after a Ghostbusters RPG. And another one that was like, my first beer was a clone of Arrogant Bastard that I called Audacious Bitch.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was fun.
Very cool. Yeah, but taking it away from, not every beer has to be after dudes. So let's name it this. So awesome. I'm assuming you collabed, especially when it comes to the OCB or yourself. Have you collabed with any breweries when it comes to either brewing a beer or getting, donations or fundraisers out into the public?
Right. Yeah. So haven't done too much in terms of fundraising efforts. I mean, I'm obviously happy to. I've been happy to sort of like give talks to fundraising effort stuff, and that's been good. In terms of collabs with breweries, there's been a few. There's been a few really good ones. So obviously with Little Beasts was the one where I collabed with Ren Navarro of Beer Diversity and Aaron at Little Beasts. And we made, I got to do the quotations here because that's important, really good friends, which is, a saison that part of the proceeds goes to, a queer charity.
Speaking of, we had mentioned that pre-show, and you did mention working with Ren. We here at All Beer Inside believe that craft beer needs more diversity when it comes to either BIPOC or LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there is growth amongst those two other communities in craft beer now, and where can you see it going on its current kind of trajectory?
Kind of a big question, and like I will say, as someone who has been in this industry since roughly 2011, and is a lesbian and is asexual. It's been interesting seeing the growth. It's been interesting seeing more acceptance, I think. I should as well say, acknowledging that there is a problem. Because at the start of this, when you would bring up your experiences, either as a woman or a queer person, you'd essentially just get, oh, it's not that bad, or it's just, one drop in a sea of, good people. And more over time, you've realized, oh no, that's not the case. The people that were saying there's a problem, turns out they were right. There is a problem. So we have seen a lot more acceptance on that level. In terms of growth, I mean, there's some events you go to where essentially like you see almost nothing but queer people. And I think that's amazing. And there's a lot of queer folks who work in the industry as well. And just sort of like, recognizing them and talking with them, I think that's a fantastic thing. And a lot of them, aside from the moments that they get of feeling slightly alienated or out of the conversation that happens when you're in a society, that's fairly heteronormative. But for the most part, they're feeling good about it, So yeah, I do see more of a growth, and I do see, I guess, like more acceptance. I think one of the big things that the industry still needs to do is find a way of holding up that welcome sign without appearing as if they're being disingenuous about it.
Yeah, it's just don't fly the flag if you're not going to back it up, in a sense. I think would be a good way to say it.
Yeah, just sort of like the corporate sponsored kind of pride stuff. Yeah, like don't put up the rainbow just because it's Pride Month. Like queer people are queer people 24/7, 365 days of the year. So
yeah, I mean, I've always said it. If I had my own brewery, I would very much work on initiatives like the Black is Beautiful or the All Together. I'm a firm believer of your brewery has to go beyond people who look like me and who drink like me. So variety is the spice of life. Craft beer, there's all sorts of variety. Why not? Why can't it be all together? Obviously, there's always going to be your holdouts. There's always going to be your very narrow-minded people. But that's opinion. And it's time to change your opinions. People can change their minds all the time. When I was younger, I used to be very recluse and anti this and anti that. And I've grown up. I've accepted I used to not be a great person. I'm trying to be a better person every day with whatever little I can do. So even just talking to you and benching these initiatives is very important. So
yeah, I mean, and like, I think that's the important thing. Like you mentioned, just sort of like acknowledgement of who you were, and then just, trying to do better day by day. I mean, and you're still going to screw it up sometimes.
sure.
I was a god awful person in my late teens, early 20s. And I think that there's a lot of people that probably still curse my name from back in those days. But I mean, I guess one aspect of things is that like I've learned from that experience, and I try to do as little harm as possible.
Yeah. So that's for sure. And as much as social media is driving us apart sometimes, it is very useful to have it as to see places not to go to who aren't accepting of other people. Like the cowbell incident when that happened, and everything with founders in the US, it's like people speak with their money, and you're not getting my money anymore. So because you're unaccepting. So
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's also just like who you associate with and all that stuff, and it's a big thing. I know that a recent one here is that like Steve Innocente from
Hmm.
Innocente Brewing um, spoke at an anti-lockdown rally, but not just with that, but like shared the stage with two representatives who are like
Yeah, yeah,
not great people.
yeah. No, yeah, yeah,
Like I can completely understand the troubles that businesses are going through, and I can empathize with that. Um, and yeah, the government has really screwed over a lot of independent businesses and just sort of like left them in the wind. The frustration of that is very valid. Um, but if you're sharing a stage with a Nazi, um,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
and frankly, I do judge people by the company they keep. You know, so yeah, you know.
Yeah, no, it's an unfortunate reality. I kind I hate to say it, but I kind of miss the days where I would be at a family Thanksgiving and only had to hear my racist uncle one time a year.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
I kind of miss that. So, or the conspiracy theory nut job, I hear them once at Christmas. So
Yeah.
it's so I personally, I've said this before. If it wasn't for this show, all my social media would be shuttered. But we are a social media show. This is very important. We have to get our voices out there. So even though my voice, like you said, is a drop in a bucket, at least maybe it's something. So
Oh, totally.
that's great. Okay, so Hugh Homebrew, could you see yourself collabing with another brewery in the GTA Ontario, even maybe Quebec, if we can ever travel again? Could you see yourself brewing a beer for either an occasion or just for the hell of it?
Yeah, actually, on that, when we were talking first about the collaborations that I did, so really good friends was only one. There were two others that I did actually with Sawdust City, in Gravenhurst that I just want to quickly talk about as well because they were really fun. Um, One was a New England IPA that like I had this specific flavor profile in mind, and we got it to just sort of like come out with the at our launch party for the second edition of the book at Bar Hop, and it was so good. It was called 1201 to Gravenhurst, which was the last Ontario Northland bus that would go from Toronto to Gravenhurst.
Okay.
So like that was always a really fun one. And then another one that we did just to annoy beer nerds. This was a collaboration with um, Duncan Crone, who he worked at Sawdust now. Now he's up in Collingwood, and Dan Bourdoin of David Carrere and Associates, which is sort of their ingredients company. But we decided to make a beer that was all of what beer nerds hated at the time. So we made a black milkshake IPA with Hasket berries. And so it was a heavily fruited black milkshake IPA, and we're just joking around, but it ended up being a hit, and it was sold at the Sawdust Tap Room, and it sold out completely within an afternoon.
That's
So
awesome.
so that was fun. But yeah, in terms of another collab, I mean, of course, I'd love to do something with like maybe the folks at Amsterdam or a lot of breweries here that I just like to do stuff with. And I mean, yeah, of course, Quebec. I mean, there's so many to think of. Like, frankly, I mean, I don't even have to collab with them. I just want to go to Dunham and just say hi,
Yeah,
and just see the process.
Dunham's pretty awesome. We, as the show, we had interviewed at La Knowlton Co. Brewery. They were only 6 weeks old when we interviewed them, which was awesome because
Yeah.
like first ones, yeah. And then we went to Dunham on the way home, and it's very like it looks like it's a farmhouse. They have an empty. It looks like your classic barrel, but it's like
Yeah.
2 stories high, and they do the Foudre Uni, which is like the crazy festival, which they bring in everybody from all over
That's
North
right.
America.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's been put on hold the last 2 years.
Man, I got to get back to Quebec. I actually back in 2015, I got so sick of Toronto and just life here that I just Airbnb'd for 2 months in Montreal. And I think like my two biggest bars that I was always at was Vices and Versa and Brouhaha.
Yeah.
And I mean, well, Brouhaha's just got that sort of like, well, my background is the only cafe, but it's like the only cafe on steroids there, and I love it. It's like David Lynch made a bar, and it was really good. But Vices and Versa was always just, it was so cozy, so wonderful, and I got to try beers from Quebec that like I just never knew about, you know. And fantastic, just wonderful.
The last 3 years as well, we've had quite the explosion in Montreal for breweries. 2019, Massorum Bractorium, I'm sure you've heard of them. They won Best New Canadian Brewery and things like that. So it's like, we're getting there. And Massorum for myself is a 40-minute walk from my house. So it's like, I can drink 3 triple IPAs and then stumble home. So it's great.
Yeah. There's another beer that I think I remember there as well. I think it's Anne Bonny from Le Corsaire.
Sounds familiar. I've tried a lot of beers in this province, but unfortunately, like this province is also gigantic, the same as Ontario. So one of our most popular, consistent breweries is Brasserie Oval.
Yes,
and they are next to the ocean, and that is roughly a 12-hour drive for me. So. Plus, it's in a region that's green, and they're like, "Hey, Montrealers, stay away. You're infected, and we're not." So
yeah. Well, fair enough, but
I'll get there. I know anybody who does go there out of my beer pals always brings back, and they only sell the 650 milliliter or 750 milliliter bottles.
Yeah,
and they'll usually bring back a 2-4 for themselves. So
amazing.
Yeah.
No, but Le Corsaire. The beer was Anne Bonny. It's a Pilsner. Because I think it came to Ontario because I was at like this sort of a hop rub event, which was showing off some Appalachian hops, and this had apparently used it, and it was just so good, so damn good.
Okay, cool. So you're in the GTA. Let's say I've never visited the GTA for some unknown reason. Tell me like 3 to 5 places that I gotta hit when I'm in Toronto, when it's obviously safe to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in terms of breweries, I'm definitely going to say Godspeed. Godspeed that's an essential stop for me. It's such a BIM there is doing some really cool stuff, and like, you know, where else to get a Czech Pilsner where they collaborated with the Czech government. So it's really, really cool stuff there. I love Godspeed. Of course, like in terms of bars, I mean, we got Bar Hop, we got Bar Volo, we got Barrera Volo. I mean, so the two Volos, which vastly different just in terms of tone and all that stuff, but they're great. I love them. Bar Hop, obviously, just like a really good OG, very, you know, good celebration of Ontario beers. One more bar too, actually. Say What? It's sort of very old school looking, but I think like that's just sort of is important to just sort of, hey, here's how, you know, here's where we've been. Breweries, I mean, definitely, I'm going to say Henderson. They had a bit of a rough start when they first opened, but they've gotten so much better now, and they actually like work a lot with the community. They're really good. The beers there are fantastic. The space is just lovely too. Left Field, really good folks there. Quite a fan of them. I'm also going to say Rorschach, just because like they are doing like a lot of interesting, weird stuff. Yeah. They made a horchata beer that just blew my mind. It was really, really good.
Yeah, no. So last time we were down in September, we were lucky enough to interview Rorschach. And he's like, yeah, here's this daiquiri sour. I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound like it's gonna. Oh my god, this beer's delicious.
Yeah.
So
it's really good. Also would probably go down to the East End, where I grew up. Muddy York, because Jeff and Susan, they're just great people, and they're really cool to talk to. And the beers are fantastic. I mean, I love the Haberdasher Hefeweizen. The Gaslight Helles is always on point. And Brunswick, which I mean, like, they're doing a lot of cool stuff. Like they're doing a lot of contracting, obviously, you know, but really good beers coming out of there, and the space is just beautiful. And right near there is an old Scarborough favorite of mine, which is called Sultan of Samosas, which some really, really damn good samosas. Yeah.
That's great, and definitely places I'm gonna do my best to visit if I haven't already.
Yeah.
When I get to travel to Toronto again, which is hopefully this summer, fall.
Who knows?
Maybe?
I don't know what's going on here, man.
I'm open for fall.
We don't know what's going on.
Yeah. We'll see. Speaking of kind of beercations, I mentioned like I wouldn't mind traveling out to Toronto. I always have to add, unfortunately, this caveat now: when it's safe to, if you need to, get in a cylindrical tube of recycled air, and go on a beercation somewhere. What are like two that you'd like to do? But so here's another thing I've been adding is on those two: one where yes, I have a job, yes, I only have so much money, and two, I won 50 million with the Lotto Max. I can spend as much money as I want.
Right. Okay. So one I could do if I knew that I didn't have much to spend, and okay.
Yeah, something realistic. Like you got a couple of grand to blow on a vacation and beer.
Yeah. So I think the first one would be England. You know, particularly sort of the northern regions, like London and parts of the north. There's some selfish reason there too. I mean, also like my family lives up there, and I miss them, so it'd be good to see them. But also just that is a country that has just, it feels like the past 5 years particularly, they have completely exploded there. You've got some stuff that is just killing it consistently. I mean, like you've got Cloudwater, you've got all this cool stuff coming out of like Sheffield and Manchester, and the places there are just like really, really nice. And just, I don't know, like going to see old England, you know, and going to parts of that and just taking in some of the beers and seeing their a lot of times their interpretation of American styles, and then just stuff that they enjoy doing that is a bit more traditional English. I mean, I would love to just have a nice pint of bitter somewhere.
Yeah.
Or a mild. And you know, that's just killing it. And just the hominess there, the feeling of like the ambience. I mean, they've got got one of the oldest pubs in the world in London, that I think is like from the 1400s or something, or 1500s, something like that. Yeah, so I think England could be the realistic one because I at least know how to travel around there. Train passes aren't that expensive. I can live with family if I need to. And yeah, so I think that would be a good one there. And if I had unlimited money, I'm torn between 3 countries. Germany, Belgium, and Japan.
Okay.
Japan would probably be the most like expensive one, and I would just love to sort of tour around there, like both as a tourist and to try a lot of the beers there and get a good sort of feeling for what's going on there. Because I like markets that like aren't 100% reported on much. You know, because a couple of years ago I got to try the beers, some beers from like to visit some breweries in Palestine, which was a lot of fun. So going to Japan, I mean, completely different, but also not much is 100% known about where to go there. So I'd like to give that a try. But of course, like Belgium, see all the good classics, you know, visit my heroes of the Trappist beers.
Fantastic. So as for yourself, as either the Thirsty Wench or Robin LeBlanc, the better half of the Ontario Craft podcast, where do you see what's next for that brand?
For the Ontario Craft Beer Guide?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. More Well, we're going to continue the podcast. We don't even know we have no plans to end that, because that's just, it's a lot of fun to do. We like doing it, but yeah, I think like definitely more interviews. We might sort of like, we're still in talks about doing a couple of things. I mean, I know that we talked about it in our 100th episode to like, hey, maybe we should finally get some merch, because we do have some listenership here. And we've got a lot of inside jokes that would make really good merch. Just, and I know that we've been invited to do some like commentary for award shows. So we'll see. I mean, it's hard to predict anything at this point with all the insane trash fire that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we're just gonna continue and try to grow.
Very cool, and I look forward to hearing more from both of you. Your episodes are super crushable, all under an hour. Like your longest one was 50 something minutes, and it was your 100th episode. So
yeah, it was important for us to make it like 20 minutes, half an hour. We had listened to a lot of podcasts, and some of them were good, and like a lot of there were quite a few that were good, but then there were others that were just, we never wanted to be two people just cracking open a beer and talking about what the beer we were drinking in the show, because we always felt that was boring. So yeah, 30 minutes was just important for us, because that's just, get that in on a drive to work or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. This has been a fantastic talk. Thank you once again for your time today. I've got no other questions for you, so let my audience know where they can find you online.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the main place you find me is on Twitter. It's the Thirsty Wench. Very simple there. Heads up, I don't talk about beer a lot on that Twitter account. I tend to just sort of like go off on tangents and stuff. I mean, I do talk about beer, but just I'm a bit all over the place on that, but it's a lot of fun. My website, which unfortunately I need to update a bit more. I will update with the anime post, thethirstywench.com. And you can listen to the podcast at OntarioCraftBeerGuide.com. We're there. Please listen to us. Please give us more numbers.
And obviously iTunes and Spotify and all the typical.
Wherever good and bad podcasts are available, they're there. So yeah, Spotify, iTunes, whatever podcast app you have, we're on there.
Awesome. So you got it all there. It'll all be in the show notes. As for us, allbeerinside.com is the website, at allbeerinside on all social media. If you want to follow me, it's at Killer Carpe Diem, each one with a K. And eventually the merch should be out. That's something I'm hopefully going to be working on soon, due to real life work that kind of takes precedence in paying my bills. So that this is just the fun part I get to do. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.